Hello everyone, Tmmgamer, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my football talk videos, the series when I sit down and talk about the happenings in real life football, both domestically and internationally. And obviously this week was the first in the long road that's going to be the qualification campaign for the next European Championships. And obviously England started that off with an away trip to Switzerland, and Switzerland are currently ranked 9th, I think it is, in the world in the FIFA rankings. They are undoubtedly the toughest team we have in the group. I mean, any group with San Marino in it is not going to be the most difficult. So when you sat down and looked at England's group, this was the match you really highlighted. Away to Switzerland, very tough match to start off with, and probably the most difficult match we're going to be having in this group. So it was very important for us to get out there with a good result and a good performance. And I have to say, I was very impressed with the way England played. I really was. And you know, like I mentioned, this is the toughest game in the group. This England team has been under a lot of pressure and has had a lot of criticism come its way recently for the perceived poor performances in the World Cup and the poor performance at home to Norway in a friendly way. I think only 40,000 people turned up, and when you've only got 40,000 people turning up to Wembley to watch an England game, that's when you know a lot of the fans aren't particularly happy with how the things are going. So for us to go away to Switzerland and play as we did, I was very impressed. And the thing that really impressed me was just how much more dangerous we looked, in that final third. Because in the World Cup, and I've mentioned this before in previous Football Talk videos, I don't think England played that badly in the World Cup whatsoever. If you have a look at the Italy game, and if you have a look at the Uruguay game, no neutral observer at all would say England were dominated in those games. No one at all. They would say England were right in the game. They created an equal amount of chances, and just on the day, it was that little bit of ruthlessness in the final third that cost us. If you have a look at the goals we conceded at the World Cup, in the Uruguay game, it was 2 goals from Luis Suarez, one of the best strikers in the world, and in the Italy game, it was a good shot from the edge of the area, and then that was about it. Uruguay didn't create 20 chances against us. Italy didn't create 20 chances against us. In the Italy game, we had more touches in the opponent's half than any other side in the tournament did at the World Cup after the first round of fixtures. So immediately, just looking at that stat right there, you can tell we had a decent game and a decent performance. But it's one thing having a decent performance in defeat. It's a whole another kettle of fish to have a decent performance and win a game, because that eventually is all football boils down to: the number of goals you score, the number of wins that you have. You can play as well as you want. If you lose 1-0, you're still a loser and you've still lost the game. So most important thing, first of all, was a 2-0 win, and to see Danny Welbeck score both of those goals is really nice. And if you're an Arsenal fan, seeing Danny Welbeck play that well last night, you've got to be very happy with that. £16 million. Will Manchester United regret selling him? I personally think they will. I think they will regret it, because I like Danny Welbeck. I think he's got a lot of very good attributes. He's always very mobile. His technical ability is actually fantastic on the ball. He's really good. He's good dribbling. He has pace. He's a big lad as well. Danny Welbeck is not a small guy, so he's got a lot more presence than I think people give him credit for. When he's on the ball, when he's running at you, I don't think there's too many people better in the Premier League, because he's just so good on the ball. The big problem with Danny Welbeck, and this is a big problem for strikers the world over, he doesn't score enough goals. And I think that's something that everybody's in agreement with, because somebody as talented as Danny Welbeck really should be scoring more goals than he does. But that was the nice thing last night. He took 2 chances very well. The first goal, you could say, oh, he shinned it, but to get into that position, he's ran 60 yards. The ball has arrived to him at a half volley with a bit of pace on it from Raheem Sterling, and Welbeck has still slotted it in the bottom corner. Even though it has come off his shin, you still have to hit the ball in the middle for it to go on target. If he shinned it and sliced it, it would have gone wide. So it's still a good finish for him to hit a bouncing ball with pace and accuracy into the bottom corner. I still think that's a very good finish. And then his goal late on, you know, again, on the ball, bursting past defenders, bursting through defensive lines, getting himself one-on-one and then slotting it away quite nicely. It was a really good performance from Danny Welbeck. And yeah, he did make some mistakes, and I'm going to mention a few of them as we go on, but to score those 2 goals would have been really nice for him, boosted his confidence quite well. Hopefully he can go and have a good season at Arsenal, because I think Danny Welbeck certainly makes a difference to this England team. When you had a look at the way we set up yesterday, that sort of diamond midfield with Sterling at the point of it and then Rooney and Welbeck sort sort of floating around. We look so dangerous on the breaks. You've got Sterling and Welbeck. You have players like Fabian Delph and Henderson in midfield are always likely to get on the ball and burst forward. Wilshere as well, always looking to get forward. I felt that was a really good balance, and we definitely looked dangerous. You know, I still think Raheem Sterling plays better in that central midfield role, in that central position, slightly ahead of holding midfielders or just in behind the striker, however you want to structure it. I think he does play better in the middle because he's just so good on the ball, again like Welbeck, and he naturally drifts to give you space. If you put him on the wing, I find he sort of just stays there. If you put him on the centre, I feel he drifts around more, he gets a little bit more involved in the game, and at the moment, form-wise, I think Raheem Sterling is one of our best players, if not the best, certainly in the top 2 or 3. So again, good performance from him. Wayne Rooney again I thought was very good. Obviously new England captain, his first competitive international as England captain. I thought he did really well. It was huge in England's first goal in the breakaway. Got the ball down, great little run, threaded it through nicely to Sterling, who then provided the assist for Welbeck. Very good there. And then defensively, we looked alright. I wouldn't say we were solid, completely solid. Phil Jones, a little bit shaky here and there. John Stones is not a full-back. He's not a right-back at any stretch of the imagination. But I would much rather see John Stones play right-back for England than Glenn Johnson. Because Glenn Johnson, in my opinion, is just not an international standard full-back. He's not an international standard full-back at all. Defensively, he is mediocre at best. I think that's the kindest way to put it. So overall, I was pretty happy. Obviously, I've mentioned Fabian Delph briefly before, and I actually did a football talk about him last week, talking about how I think he's been one of Villa's best players and how he deserves his recognition on the international stage. And he put in a very solid performance. I felt he didn't look out of place. He should have had a penalty. Checked on infield on the left hand side of the penalty area and was clearly brought down in my eyes for a penalty, so that would have been a nice little thing for him if that had happened. But I just thought his general play was good. The good thing with Fabian Delph, he will always put a shift in. In the centre of the park, he will run around, he's got energy, he'll put challenges in, and he's actually a lot better on the ball than people realise. Because when you first watch Fabian Delph play, you'll watch him for, let's say, half an hour, a couple of games, and you'll see all the things that I've mentioned. The energy, the passion, the willingness to put challenges in. And then if you don't watch him anymore, you might think that's it. But the more you watch him, you begin to realise just how good he is on the ball. And he made some really nice passes off his right foot, which is his weaker foot as well. Fabian Delph is a left-footed player. But some great passes, finessing them round to the fullback John Stones, who was getting forward in a few nice interchanges with Wilshere and Henderson in midfield. And I felt he did really well. I felt he did well. He gave the ball away a couple of times. But hey, this is his competitive debut against Switzerland, a tough team, away from home. Nobody's going to be perfect. He gave the ball away a couple of times, but then again, he's the sort of person, if he gives it away, he won't go, oh, God, I'm going to go and slouch off and complain. He'll go and run around and try and get it back for you. He's that sort of guy. So I thought Delph was very good. I really did. I enjoyed his performance last night. Obviously, from a Villa point of view, I was hoping he'd do well, because Fabian Delph is a player I really like, and I rate pretty highly. So I was hoping he'd do well, but I felt he did pretty nicely indeed. Mentioned John Stones briefly. He's got potential, there's no doubt about that. I think he's one of the highest potential youngsters in the country, but there's no way in a million years he's a right back. He's a centre back through and through. And what I really worry about John Stones is that it'll happen, that he'll turn into Phil Jones. And the massive problem why Phil Jones has not developed in the way that a lot of people were hoping for is that Phil Jones has been thrown into every single position apart from centre-back. He's played right-back far too many times, he's played central midfield, he's played in defensive midfield, he just plays seemingly everywhere apart from centre-back, which is his best position. If England actually want to have a successful centre-back partnership, Phil Jones has to play centre-back more often. And the good thing from an England point of view at the start of the season is seeing Phil Jones play at centre-back for Manchester United. A lot of people see Phil Jones and go, oh, he's good on the ball, he's composed, he's got good touches, he should play in midfield. No, he's a centre-back who's good on the ball. And that's not a bad thing to have, because you saw just how well England kept the ball last night. it was noticeably different to the previous qualification campaigns when we've had Jagielka at centre-back. And don't get me wrong, I quite like Phil Jagielka. He's a dependable defender, but when you pass him the ball, you can tell he doesn't feel comfortable. He's not comfortable on the ball. When you've got Phil Jagielka in the team, far too often you'll see a long ball upfield, or you'll see just an aimless whack into the stands. Jones and Cahill, when they got on the ball, their first instinct was to pass. And that meant that England kept the ball really well. For large proportions of the game, we were effortlessly keeping the ball. But the problem was, we did a lot of that in the World Cup, where we just knocked it around our own half and didn't look particularly threatening. Where the real difference came in last night was every time we got the ball, there was this massive, movement upfield. There's Raheem Sterling, there was Rooney, there was Welbeck, all making these good runs, making space, threatening defenders, pulling people apart. And it was a game where you had to be patient, because Switzerland, they sat back, they made it difficult, they're a good team, they're no mugs, you're not just going to roll over Switzerland. So people expecting us to turn up there and stick six past them were just never going to get their wish at all. But I felt it was a really disciplined performance. Played well pretty much all through the 90 minutes. There wasn't really one stage of the game where I thought, wow, Switzerland are getting on top here. They had their moments, but they're the home team, and like I mentioned, they were ranked 9th. So you're not going to go away and have 85% possession, are you, and just completely dominate a team 100%. It's not going to happen. So by and large, England were phenomenal in terms of keeping the ball, in terms of not really having too much to deal with defensively. Joe Hart made a couple of good saves from individual errors, but again, that was just a couple of individual errors. It was Jones missing a ball, and Joe Hart saved very, very sweetly with his leg. I can remember that save. Very, very important. Made a nice save from, again, a shot about from the edge of the area where he just tips it over the bar pretty much straight at him. And it was a good save, but these are not catastrophic, oh dear, we've just got really, really lucky not to concede their moments. This was a little defensive mistake, a shot from an angle which Joe Hart saved well, but again, a save you would expect him to make, and then a decent shot from a little bit further out, but again, pretty close to Joe Hart where he's tipped it over the bar. So that was really the cumulative sum of Switzerland's attacking play. Not bad, but not incredibly threatening whatsoever. So from that point of view, I felt it was pretty good. I've already mentioned how effective we were going forward. Don't forget as well, I think this was the second youngest team ever to represent England in a competitive qualification international, which is just ridiculous. The average age was 24. This is a very, very young England team, and let's just remember the people who are missing from this team as well. Currently got Luke Shaw injured, we've currently got Daniel Sturridge injured, we've currently got Ross Barkley injured. Straight away, they're 3 other very talented young English players. So the average age of this team isn't going to be going up for very many years. You could make a couple of changes and the average age would stay pretty much the same, or even go down a little bit. That's how young this team is. This isn't the beginning of some glorious new golden age. I don't think this is a coming of age moment at all. But this is a very, very welcome performance. It really is. Because like I mentioned, there was a lot of criticism and a bit of pressure being to build up on Roy Hodgson. And you could tell it was affecting him. That press conference after the Norway game when he came out, and you could tell he was very irritated. And this is one thing with Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson has always been that sort of calm, relaxed figure. He just talks about the team. He just doesn't worry about the press. He's all like, oh, I believe in the players, believe in the youth. This is what I'm going to go for. And don't forget, at the World Cup, the players he picked were, I'd say, 95% the players that the rest of the country picked. If you would have sat all England football fans down at the start of the tournament and said, who would be the 23 players you want to take on the plane, I don't think there would have been too many differences in the list, in the average of players. He took Luke Shaw, which is who we wanted. He took Barkley, he took these young players. And hey, it didn't work out, but he picked the best 23 players we had. And there's only so much a manager can do. It's clear the players like Roy Hodgson. We're actually playing decent football under Roy Hodgson. We have not played this style of passing football ever. I remember watching England and being scrappy. I remember horrible 2-2 draws to Macedonia, where Macedonia have just completely dominated us in spells. I've remembered horrible, horrible performances. The Wally with a Brolly moment for McLaren at Wembley, where we've crashed out in the qualification campaign. We have been beaten at a World Cup by Italy, who were ranked like 4th, and Uruguay, who were ranked like 5th. And then we went home. We had a bit of an average performance against Costa Rica, but hey, the tournament was over and we're not going to break any legs doing that, are you? So overall, right now, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future because that was our most difficult game in the group. I don't think there's any debate about that. We came out of it with a really good performance. We came out of it with some goals. And don't forget, really, we should have scored a couple more goals. It was only because of, like I mentioned briefly earlier, Danny Welbeck having a little bit of a fluff after some great work down the right. He burst past the left fullback for Switzerland, drove into the area, and then had Rooney and Sterling, could have picked out either of them and decided to pick out neither. And then later on in the half, with a absolute bullet header from a corner, Phil Jones drew a simply splendid save from the Swiss goalkeeper. Just an incredible save. So really, we should have been 2-0 up at half time, and then obviously scored 2 goals in the second half. So we created a lot of chances, we scored some goals, we had a good performance, we had a lot of young players, a lot of pace, a lot of verve in the attacking third, which we've lacked at times. We actually looked a dangerous, young, exciting team to watch, and that's what I want. That's what I want to see from England. I don't mind just losing games every now and again. If we go out and play well and play some decent football and try and knock it around and have a few shots and at the end of the day get beaten by Spain or Germany or Italy in a close game, then you can go, hey, at least, you know, at least we're trying. What I hate seeing is that friendly against Norway where there's no one in the stand and it's a boring game and nobody wants to go and watch Norway and the performance is average and nothing happens and we have to rely on a penalty to win. That is what I don't want to see. So hopefully plenty more performances like the one against Switzerland. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. As always, I really hope you've enjoyed it. What do you think about the performance against Switzerland? Is it a step in the right direction? Is it the beginning of a grand new dawn for English football? Or is it just a stepping stone to better things? But once again, thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.